Welcome friends to another r/IDontWorkHereLady video. Hitting the like and subscribe buttons down below is really easy. You don't have to work here. That said, our first story of the day is by RJ Chow. Pick up address? Note, this is not my story, it's actually that of a friend's mother. Many years ago, she lived in a place that had a phone number that was one digit different to that of the local taxi company. After months of arguing with people at 3 a.m. in the morning that, "You've called the wrong number, we're not XYZ taxis," she eventually gave up and just took her phone off the hook on Friday and Saturday nights. On the occasions that she forgot, when the phone inevitably rang at some ungodly hour of the night, she would just answer it and ask, "Pick up address? Where are you going? Ready now?" Then hang up and just take the phone off the hook. If your phone number was mixed up with the company's and people kept calling you over and over, and you couldn't get the company to do anything about it, would you rather change your number, or would you start messing with the customers until hopefully they do something about it? Let me know what you would do in the comments down below. Our next story is by Unofficially ATC. "I don't work for Google, ma'am." Literally happened about 10 minutes ago. Not a super exciting story, but I thought someone might get a chuckle out of it. I work as a customer support phone agent for an app that handles a lot of financial information. Therefore, we have a process whenever someone calls in to verify their identity before we can give them any information. A lady calls in, I give her my greeting spiel, and we go through the verification process without issue. Then we get to why she called in. She's having trouble logging onto the app. I assist with that and ask her if there's anything else she needs. She says, "Can you upgrade my Google account?" I say, "I'm not sure what you mean." She says, "Well, that's why I was trying to log in the first place. I'm trying to upgrade my Google account. We are in no way connected to Google, apart from allowing people to use Google Pay within our app. So I'm not sure what her thought process was with that." I say, "If you're having difficulty with your Google account, I would recommend calling Google support." The lady, now very irritated, says, "So you can't help me?" I say, "No ma'am, I work for company. I can't assist you with accounts outside of our platform." She says, "You people make this so difficult. I give up." I'm not allowed to hang up on customers, so I got to hear her huff and complain to herself for several more minutes before she finally hung up. Now, disclaimer, I know that these people are really rude and indecent with just how they carry themselves, but I can't help but feel bad for these people that just don't really get it. They just don't understand apps or platforms or accounts. Maybe it's because they don't take the time to learn, but I still just kind of feel bad for these people. Like they just don't understand it and they're trying to figure it out. Well, I guess if they tried to figure it out, they wouldn't be asking the absolute wrong person for help. This next story is by Mike Cool. Just ignored it. I think that this story is interesting in that I took a different approach than I've ever seen here before, and it worked out really well. Yesterday, I was shopping at a pet store with my wife. My dog had a bad reaction to walking on the salted sidewalks in our city barefoot, so we went to get him some new booties as his old one had broken. While we were looking, a woman came up to us and asked, "Do you have any more of these anywhere?" while holding up a different type of booty. I realized she thought that I worked there, but decided to just ignore it. Instead, I replied that it looked like the store was all out, because that particular brand never worked well for my wife and me. I suggested the one we were looking at, but she had too small of a dog for the size remaining in those two. She thanked us, and we all pretended that she hadn't misread the situation. In retrospect, I realized why she thought I worked there. I had just left a work event, so I was wearing a zip-up light jacket in my company's colors, which are similar to the pet stores. Also, it was very cold out, and I don't really mind being a bit chilly when walking between the store and my car. So I was definitely underdressed compared to the other customers. It's definitely a nice thing to just try and help out where you can. Although I do wonder if somebody's looking for something and they can't find it and they come up to you and say, "Hey, do you know if any so-and-so's in stock?" or "Hey, do you know where so-and-so is?" Maybe it would work well if you were just like, "Actually, I was just trying to help somebody. It's all out of stock. I checked in the back too." If you were dealing with a Karen, I wonder if that would be a good resolution. Though, if it was a true Karen, you'd probably just get shifted onto the next phase of, "This store sucks, you guys never have anything in stock, blah blah blah." Our next story is by SNWLF1. It costs nothing to be kind. Just a short, happy is, a tiny ranty, I don't work here lady. I work in a grocery store and just finished my shift at work. I forgot to grab a couple small items before I left, so I quickly popped over to the dollar store across the street. It's super close to my bus stop. I had an armful because it's never just what you went in for, and this tiny old lady asked if I could help her. Obviously, I'm not staff. It's winter in northern British Columbia, and I'm bundled up for the walk from my bus stop to home. Heavy coat, mitts, ice cleats. I said I could try. What did she need? She couldn't raise her arm high enough to get the lip chap she needed. So I reached up, plucked it off the hook, and handed it to her. She was super appreciative and seemed genuinely shocked I helped. A few minutes later, I passed her in another aisle trying to get laces. I asked if she needed a hand again and passed her the laces. You would have thought that I handed her a winning lotto ticket. She said it must have been her lucky day and wished me a wonderful rest of my day. It occurred to me after I left, it costs absolutely nothing to be kind. And the fact that it seems to happen so rarely is very, very sad. It actually makes me miss the beginning of the pandemic. People were thankful, polite, helping others. Now, sweet little old ladies have to be surprised if someone helps them. I think something we can mostly agree on is if there's a little old lady in a store and they can't raise their arm enough or they can't reach the top shelf, anybody that can and willingly chooses to not help, I think they're a little bit of a jerk. Doesn't even have to be an old lady. If somebody's shorter or has an issue, if you can help them and you just walk right past them and hope they don't ask, that's pretty selfish, right? This next story is by Didn't Know You Can Read. Please don't call me again. I've worked as an IT consultant for quite some time and handled various projects. They would pay the company I worked for an hourly rate based on experience of the consultant, and then we would go on site to help them with whatever they were doing. You can imagine that this service wasn't cheap. And they had to pay the hotel as well because most of the time we would be in the city 5 days a week, plus commute to our hometown. And more often than not, we had to help them for months, so they had to pay a lot. Every time I would finish a project, I took a week or two to train someone, up to 3 people, to take over my tasks. And then another 2 days to document everything. When I say everything, I mean everything, in a way a child could understand. And every time, I got numerous calls to help them. The most common would be, "Please help me, it's gonna be quick. I don't work for you anymore. I have a question regarding, if you want me to help you, talk to my company. I'm sure they'll be delighted to let me help you. Could you tell me how to read the Foku? It's all there." And yes, I started calling it Foku on a regular basis. Read it and don't call me. I think we can all kind of relate to stories like this. It's kind of that moment where you're doing something and you know your friend's already done it before. So instead of Googling it and trying to find some kind of tutorial or document, you want to just go ask them how they did it. Depending on the person though, they might say, "Just Google it, you can find out how to do it, it's easy." In this case, OP saying, "Read the document. We made a document, it's so simple a child can understand it, just read it." Some people just want to be directed. They don't want to work themselves to understand it. Our next story is by Sulia. Because I put chips back neatly, I must be an employee. Makes perfect sense, right? I'm at the local market and I'm pushing a basket full of food. Like the indecisive person I am, I'm standing in front of the chips, trying to decide which ones to buy. I keep grabbing and putting back different kinds of chips, and I'm putting them back carefully so I don't make a mess of the place. I used to work retail a long time ago and hated it when people just stuffed things randomly back on the shelves. I finally found some that I'm happy with. Tostitos lime, so I tossed them into my cart and started walking towards the registers so I can pay and go. I do faintly hear some lady behind me talking, but I figure she's on her phone, and so I ignore it. Then a hand grabs my right shoulder and jerks it backwards. I slap the hand away and spin around to my right to see a lady with an angry red face who says, "Didn't you hear me? Where are the Doritos?" I say, "Stop touching me, I don't work here. I don't know." The lady pointing at my face says, "Don't be lazy. I saw you putting the chips on the shelf. Get me Doritos." I say, "I don't work here, and you need glasses if you can't see the Doritos right next to you." I grab a bag of Doritos and shove them in front of her face. She grabs them and puts them into her cart and starts walking away and says, Was that so hard? Workers are so lazy these days. I just stood there for a minute and then resumed my walk to the registers. I saw the lady checking out nearby and quickly walked past her to the far end of the store to keep away from her. I got up to the last register, and lucky me, the checkout clerk was actually an assistant manager. So I told him about the lady grabbing my shoulder and pointed over to her. The manager looked over at the lady and quietly said, "Again?" and asked me to wait for a moment. After a minute, another clerk came by and rang up the rest of my items. As I was walking out of the store, the assistant manager came up to me and told me that she's grabbed other customers before, and that he's asked the lady to not come back without her daughter, who usually helps her shop. He thanked me for being patient and gave me a coupon for a free box of cookies. Cookies don't really make up for a random old lady grabbing my shoulder, but that's the way the cookie bounces. A very common theme I see now in these I Don't Work Here Lady stories is if you're indecisive or moving things around or even just kind of tidying up something that's out of place, it's way more likely that you're going to be confused for an employee. If you're at the store and you see something that's clearly out of place, would you take the time to move it right back over to the right spot? What about if you put something in your cart, later on you realized you don't actually want it? Are you the kind of person that secretly ditches it off to the side somewhere? Let me know down in the comments. Our next story is by Lorando Seifu 1. I was the lady in I Don't Work Here Lady. Everyone knows how much fun the pandemic has been. When you look at the problems medical professionals and grocery employees have, mine are small. But however, I went to a grocery store where employees wear black. I dutifully wore my double-layer microfiber cloth mask. The glasses do not work with the mask. My eyes do not work without the glasses. I asked the lady wearing black, "Do you have guacamole?" She went looking for it. At some point, I realized her jacket was branded gear and not a store-related jacket. She brought back a guacamole and some avocado salsa product. I said thank you, apologized, and took both so she wouldn't have to put one back. I mentioned this subreddit and said that now I have a story to post in it. I'm gonna be honest, if that was me and they came back and I realized they weren't an employee, I would say nothing, take both products, go straight to the self-checkout, and get out of there and never come back. Okay, I would come back, but I would definitely get out of there ASAP. This next story is by Fan Hasshawk. It happened again, this time at the grocery store. I'm the truck driver who posted a few months back when a woman at a truck stop demanded I go clean the women's restroom because I happened to be wearing a mask. Yesterday, the following happened at the grocery store I regularly visit. "Where are the canned peaches? I don't see any canned peaches. I wanted to buy some." Me, a customer at the store, said, "The canned peaches are over here." I point to the canned peaches. They were about 12 feet down the aisle from where the loudmouth stood. They say, "Well, that's not where they're supposed to be." Me, a customer at the store, said, "Look, stupid, this isn't your home pantry. You want peaches? Here they are. I'm going to call the manager." Me, a customer at the store, said, "Oh, shut up, you old shrew." I bet you the employees were enjoying every second of that interaction if they were seeing that go down. That's probably just about what anybody that actually works at these places wants to say to those kinds of people, but obviously they just can't. And our final story of the day is by Impossible Leopard 25. Not the cleaning lady. I'm a home healthcare aide whose main job is to cook, general cleaning, bathing, and other personal care. I've learned over the years that a fair few clients don't have the cleaning supplies they need for me to clean. So I tend to carry around my own mop and bucket and cleaning rags to many of them. Today, I had just finished with my last client, who lived in a 9-story apartment building wearing nursing scrubs and carrying the mop handle and bucket, notably missing the interchangeable mop head as I leave those at different clients' houses. And just climbed out of the elevator on the ground floor, headed for the exit, when I hear the two women I passed as they entered the elevator. Woman number 1 said, "Ew, cockroach." Woman number 2 said, "Nuh-uh, I don't see anything." Woman number 1 said, "Right there. These lazy people can't do their jobs and keep this place clean." Woman number 2 said, "And there went the darn cleaning lady." At this point, I'm nearly to the side door leading to the parking lot and shout over my shoulder, "I don't work for this complex." ended up closing the door on the second woman, shouting about how I need to keep my pasty white butt out of other people's business. Well, while they were having some kind of conversation amongst themselves, it crossed over into acknowledging OP and blaming them for something, so I think it's totally understandable that OP involves themselves in that, right? You deserve a right to defend yourself in a conversation, even if they didn't intend for you to hear it, right? But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So of all these stories I've read today, which is your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, if you could like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Whatever you do, whether it's liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of it helps grow this channel and I appreciate the heck out of it. So until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow with some more stories.